Ellen Lucy again, the terrible twosome. Today we're going to be talking about safer caring, which is a real specific term that we tend to use in fostering. Might not mean anything to the outside world particularly. Now the need to look at what we call safer caring is very much focused on in the assessment for any prospective foster carers, and we also look at it in the Skills to Foster group. The reason we ask carers to consider this area is that if they're looking after a child who's experienced abuse or who has had traumatic past experiences, both of which are quite possible, they need to think about how their normal life at home might affect that child, and any behaviours that are normal to them might trigger and help make a child feel unsafe. And linked with that is an area that people often get very worried about, and quite understandably, about whether a child makes an allegation because they're feeling wobbly or unsafe, or because some sort of behaviour has triggered a past memory. So a safer caring policy is something that we ask foster carers to put together to both help a child feel safe and to mitigate against possible allegations. So today I'm going to be talking to Lucy, a real life foster carer, about her own safer caring policy, and we thought it might be useful to go through what she originally wrote when she was being assessed with her husband before they started fostering, and what the reality is now that they've been fostering and that they've had their young lad with them for some time. So if we start, Lucy, with the first area that we look at is about how you show affection at home, and what you wrote originally and what the reality is now.
Well, the reason you're smiling is because I'm quite a tactile person, and there aren't very many people that get away without a hug when they've been with me. So it was quite interesting looking back on this. So what we originally wrote during the assessment was that we would ask the child's permission before physically comforting them or showing affection that was sort of tactile or physical. And if we were giving hugs, we'd do it appropriately, so sort of from the side like this, rather than... I
feel very safe.
like this, which is how I normally do it. And that when showing affection, we would have the door open. And we also talked to my two sons about what was appropriate touching, so that they would know, you know, if they were touched by a child somewhere, they would know sort of what was reasonable and what was sort of venturing into the uncomfortable. And I have to say that we don't do any of those things now. So we've had our foster son with us for coming up to 3 years, and you know, these sorts of rules have just evolved because we now know him very well. We know what he's comfortable with, and actually he's just had to become comfortable with us as well to a certain degree. And when he first came to us, even the showing affection, you know, I didn't really ask his permission, but you know, I was sussing it out. So I sort of got to know what he was comfortable with and what he wasn't. And actually, in the early days, he would quite often give me a kiss goodnight and vice versa. And oftentimes he would just do a high five, and that was sort of how it evolved. And to this day, he will come in, he will freely give hugs, but more often on a day-to-day basis, he'll high five, and the kids high five each other. So yeah, so the rules change, and as you use your conversation.
Yeah, and as you build relationships.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So the next area that we ask you to look at is in the bathroom, and I can see, reading your original policy, that you would have your bathroom door closed when in use, which perhaps you don't normally do when you're a usual family, that you will not emerge from the bathroom undressed, and that you'll always knock and wait for a response before entering the bathroom. Is that still the case, or has that relaxed?
I think it has relaxed a little bit, but the bathroom is probably the area where you're most conscious of. Actually, it would be really awkward if, apart from anything else, just the sheer awkwardness of someone kind of walking in on you, or you walking in on them, especially when you're talking about teenage boys.
Absolutely.
And actually, I was watching my 10-year-old. You know, when this was put together, actually the whole household would pretty much walk around in the nude all the time, and you know, there certainly was... Even
when your assessor visited.
Yes, on the very first visit, in fact, my son was naked. But as they've sort of grown up as well, they're much more conscious of their bodies, so that's something they've sort of grown out of anyway. We always knock on bathroom doors. That's one thing that we definitely do. But my son the other day ran out the bathroom, one hand here, one hand here, like, oh, forgotten my dressing gown or whatever it was, you know. And it's no big deal. It's just like, it's just a normal household. But I think the bathroom, you know, you're more likely to do those things as a matter of course anyway, rather than feeling, oh, there's something I have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so, I mean, that links in some ways with the way you dress, and you said originally, we'll ensure that we are all fully dressed, thank goodness for that, unless you are in the privacy of the bathroom or the bedroom. And so from what you're saying, that's kind of common sense anyway.
Yeah,
and particularly as children get older in families.
Exactly. I think the biggest change that we made was buying Jim, my husband, a dressing gown.
Yes.
That's all we need to say.
Having been witness to his rugby shorts, that's a great idea. Yes. Okay. So, in terms of playing and activities, that's an area that we look at, and it seems like that might be a strange area to look at. What's wrong with play and activities? But what we find is that some children who've experienced abuse, that's been introduced via tickling games or rough and tumble. And so it's one of those areas, again, it's that invading a child's physical space. So you had put, we won't engage in any of that. Play happens downstairs in the playroom with the door open and children are supervised while playing. So how's that worked in practice?
I mean, I think, again, initially, when our foster son came to us, you know, you are concerned about all of those things. You're concerned about keeping your children safe. And so I think I was much more aware and very vigilant about where they were and what they were doing. But actually, they've grown up, the nature of their play has changed, but equally, our foster son isn't really the type to rough and tumble, so it hasn't been an issue at all. And actually, you know, it was one of the things that was quite important when we were putting the plan together, and it's actually ended up being the least important one. Yeah.
So foster carers' bedroom, we generally ask carers to think about, is there a rule around knocking on your door or keeping your door closed? But you know, also having some provision for if a child's scared at night. So what about your bedroom, Lucy?
Yes, actually everybody knocks on the bedroom door. And we didn't have that rule before we started fostering. Like, I thought, you know, ooh, good luck.
Yeah.
But actually, the boys, they always knock before they come in. We originally had also said that our bedroom would be out of bounds to everybody, apart, you know, but our own children may be with us with the door open. Well, that just doesn't happen because they sometimes they come in, they close the door, they get into bed. You know, it's fairly standard. And actually, also there have been times when I've been in my bedroom and my foster son knocks, and I say, "Come in," and he doesn't particularly want to be in my bedroom, but he'll have the door open, he'll be leaning on the door frame, and that's all fine. There's sort of nothing. There's no out of bounds area really, but he certainly wouldn't be in there on his own, or you know. It's just natural.
It's another area that hasn't been a problem.
No.
Yeah. So the young person's bedroom, you've said we adopt a bedroom as a for sleeping approach. Stories are read downstairs, but of course this was perhaps written with a younger child in mind. No one enters anyone's bedroom without knocking. If anyone else is in the room with the child, the door remains open, and we all respect people's private space.
Yeah, I mean, it's just respect, really, isn't it? And I think, you know, actually, even though he's an older child, he did spend quite a significant period of time reading to me at night. But that is always done downstairs. And yeah, as I was saying earlier, you just knock. It's basic respect. It's not
for everybody.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So bedtimes, again, you put where appropriate, stories are read in downstairs and not in bedrooms, just in case that might be an area that makes a child feel a bit wobbly. You sleep with your doors closed, and then you'll set a bedtime for every family member depending on age.
Yeah, and that's just
kind
worked
of common
out.
Sense again.
Actually, our foster son likes to have his door closed, you know, and you hear him, and he's got a lock on his door. he will lock that, and that's because that's where he really feels safe.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely fine. We've not had any issues with that. Similarly, you know, there have been times where he's been upset and he's been sitting on his bed and I've sat on his bed next to him, and the door, you know, you're aware of keeping the door open, but actually, you know, you also know what relationship you have by when you've had someone in the family for that long. And whilst definitely I would say foster carers do need to be mindful of this stuff and keep their guard up to a degree, actually it's quite rare that children do make allegations, and that you know, you have to really watch whether something you're doing can be misconstrued.
Yeah, and actually it's worth adding that we ask carers to make sort of generalised kind of rules and guidelines for home around safer caring, but for each child they care for, we then ask them to do a specific safer care policy around that child. So it's not a kind of blanket approach, and that's updated on a fairly regular basis to reflect the child's needs. So in your situation it is completely different from perhaps how you thought. Well, not completely, but you know,
it's certainly, you know, I think a lot of people's reaction is, there are so many rules and regulations and things you can't do, and you can't do this and you can't do that. And in my experience, it's just not the case. The stuff that really has come into play is the common sense stuff that you do anyway. And actually, outside of that, you're free to evolve as a new family with a new member quite naturally.
Yeah, I mean, I think perhaps we'll draw it to a close there, and we'll say, we hope we've helped to reassure you, but also look at some of the areas that we ask carers to think about. But if you want any more information, as ever, let us know. Get in touch with us either on our website or give us a call. And we'll be back with another thrilling video at another time. Thanks.